Why not?
Just apply.
Hmm?
And the rule of the 15-metre rule, I was consulting each year.
Okay, you don't use red
I
flags.
don't need red flags. No.
Okay. If you're sailing in a boat more than 6 meters, the red flag is as important a piece of your equipment as your mainsail and your main sheet. That's why I asked those questions. Because a number of people, they have a protest, a red flag. Oh yeah, down below somewhere, or oh, we couldn't find it. You know, again, opportunity to have your protest thrown away. There's a famous one, two friends of mine in Holland, a big boat regatta. And the guy comes into protest room and say, yes, we did, you hear? Yeah, we did, we heard him all right. Just put up the red flag. Yes, yeah, we did. Went to put it up. Oh, it was about 10 minutes later. Oh, why? Well, we couldn't find the scissors, was the answer by the Dutchman. We couldn't find the scissors. Why did you need the scissors? Well, we hadn't got a red flag, but we had an AP. And we need the scissors to cut the wipers off. Again, big race, lots of money involved, big boats, hadn't got a red flag. Couldn't do a protest, chucked out. Doesn't matter what's been done to your boat. If you don't have it, you're not there. Other things have to be in the protest. The contents, you've got to write, fill in a form. Many people have protest forms of their own. Always have a form in your bag, with your kit, with your rule book. Because when you need it, the last place you want to go look at is scrapping around the club. Is there one behind the bars, or one in the race office, or is there one somewhere else? If you've got a big cruiser, keep it on board. But all the rest will keep fuel. So you don't have to go looking around. Save valuable time. The contents of a protest have to describe the incident, including when and where it occurred. If you write, we were in race 1, we were on the second leg, approaching the windward mark with such and such a boat, we were on port, he was in starboard, whatever, something happened, and you don't put your name, his name, the boat names, anything else, or whatever rule you thought broke, doesn't matter. Get that in. If you're really short in time, get that in. You can then correct the bits you left out. But if you don't have that crucial piece of information describing that there was an incident between two boats, it can't be heard. The number of times I've got sheets in, fully filled out, names, addresses, boat names, cell number, email address, phone numbers, for everybody involved, no description. You cannot fix that once you hand the form in. You can fix something else, but you can't fix that bit. Oops, go back. A time limit. There's a time limit for protests. You've only got so long to get them in. It's rarely longer than 2 hours. It is usually 1 hour. Sometimes it's less, depending on where you're in. Like if you're setting out here and it takes 10 minutes to get in from the finish line to the club, the protest time then should be something like 30 minutes, 40 minutes. There's no need for it to be an hour and a half. You know, all you do is hang around, waiting for trouble. It should be very, very quick, but you need to know what it is. It is always described, unless it's a huge race of some sort, it's always described as a certain amount of time after the last boat finishes the last race of the day. Read the sailing instructions, it might say something different, but you need to know that. And in a big regatta, they post the protest time. But it's pretty easy to work out. If you're the last boat, you know it's going to be an hour or 40 minutes from the time you finish. If you're the first boat, you know you've got at least that time plus whatever's behind you. So it's easy to actually know what the time is without having to go run around looking. What's the time? Just look at your watch what time you finish that. Most people are fairly good at what time you finish that. And you know, but you have to have it in the time. Now, if you launch your protest, and the protest time limit is described as 16:09, and your protest is handed into the race office 16:10, what chance do you think you have of getting heard? There's only one chance, and that is if the protest committee, and they will ask you, why were you late putting your form in? And if you say, well, we went for a shower, we had a burger and a pint, well, okay, that's not a good reason. the protest committee needs a good reason to extend the time. In fact, the rule says the protest committee shall extend the time limit. So if you have a good reason, like you have to go to hospital with your crew or something, pretty reasonable time, if serious thing happened to you, they will extend the time. But generally, if you're faffing about, 1 minute late is too late. Protest people are not going to suffer people who wander around the place, aimlessly for an hour or so. Usually, you'll be told when, where the hearing is going to take place. You need your witnesses and your preparation done at that time and in that place, not later. Protest committees will not wait for you. If the hearing is scheduled for 1600 and you wander down at 1615, very likely the case will have been heard and decided. And because you're not there, they'll say, well, was he informed? If they have to put a notice on the board, it will have been on the board. If you don't turn up, they can proceed without you. No problem, we do it all the time. And usually the guy who's not there is the one who gets fixed, funny enough. Strange thing that, I don't know why. Appeals. There's two bits of appeals I want to cover. Firstly, before we go on to appeals and things and reopenings, protesting is just part of the game. I protest you because I think you broke a rule. You protest me because you think I broke a rule. No hard feelings, that's what it is, We know at the end of it whether each of us broke a rule. In some cases, nobody broke a rule. That's quite frequent. And in some cases, the person who put the protest in, thinking the other guy broke the rule, was actually the one who broke the rule. You want to see the look his face then? Did you do that? Yeah, sure. Part of the game. It's no big deal. Nothing to get upset about. You can ask the protest committee to reopen if you think they made a serious mistake, significant error, or if you have, which is more likely, some new evidence. It doesn't necessarily mean that you wanted Peter to come in as a witness, but Peter was in the bar and he was having a pint, but you didn't go and find him at the time. It's only later on you found him in the bar. No protest committee is going to accept that. That's not new evidence. That's just, it's evidence of your tardiness preparing your case. New evidence would be a guy who's been on the race course, like maybe Chaplain and Marks, happened to be beside it and saw the whole thing and said, God, I saw that. That was you in the red boat and the green boat. Yeah, I saw that, yeah. And maybe they'll think they'll hear that. Provided it's really genuine that he wasn't allowed, he was still allowed to see it, all sorts of stuff like that. Sometimes it happens the protest committee decide to reopen themselves because, we think about these things afterwards for a long time. Usually a couple of days sometimes, particularly tricky ones. Did we really do this the right way around? Because sometimes we don't. And occasionally we'll say, gosh, we made a mistake on this one. Usually it's within 24 hours. Protest committee can extend their own time limits, by the way, particularly if they think they've made a mistake. We will do pretty much anything we can to make it right, within reason. There's a famous one where we actually reopened the case. We delivered the answer on a Saturday evening, thought about it overnight, called them in Sunday afternoon just as they came back in from racing, and said, look, we're going to reopen that case. Because there was a lot of controversy over it, we weren't happy. So we went and reheard evidence, and we had disqualified someone on Saturday night, and on Sunday night we disqualified the same person for a different rule. It's like when you do it to sums when you're a kid, and you get the right answer, and the teacher says, you get the right answer, great, and then they look at how you did it. It doesn't make sense, it has to make sense. You can appeal to the ISA. It's very easy. Firstly, you have to get a copy of the protest and the decision written by the protest committee. They have to write the stuff down. They've got to write the facts they found down. They've got to write their conclusions, and they've got to write what rule that they're making the decision on and what the penalty is going to be, if it's going to be a penalty or a redress. And then you get copies of all that. You need a notice of race deciding instructions, the name of the chairman of the protest committee, and of course you need a reason for the appeal. You can't appeal the facts that are found. If it's found that you're in port, you're doing 20 knots, and you've cloud to the boat and starboard, it was also doing 20 knots. You know, you can't say, well, you know, I was only doing 2 knots. Pretty much, because the facts aren't the evidence they took from you. That's pretty much why that is, I think. But you send in your appeal to the ISA, there's a fee, I think it's €50, something like that, and it takes forever. You get a definitive answer eventually, but that's the end of it. You can't go to ISAF. They laugh at you. They laugh when the phone rings from Ireland Duty. We don't ring. But people do, not happy with the answers. But appeals come to the ISA, we deal with them, and they're sorted, and it's the end of it. We lose a draw. Just some points in analysing the situation, you know, in your mind. 4-step diagram, the most useful positions. This is kind of probably too technical for this tonight, but you know, your positions at the closest point, before, after. At each step, who was key clear, who to give room, where was the proper course, was there interference, has the rule been broken? You know, the questions are, was the boat required to keep clear? Has the boat required to keep clear cause the right away boat towards course? Now, this is the sort of the test that they ask. Has a boat required to give room, failed to do so, or has a boat restricted boat sailed above a proper course, in other words, someone come and doing something they shouldn't do, or has a boat interfered or had contact that could have been avoided? Classic stuff. Okay, this is going to be a little bit lighter. Yep, back. She paid, she won't. Okay. Now we're going to look at some sailing situations. I picked these up from, these are e-boats, by the way, in Clontarf. This is actually up to Liffey. And they're having a very short race with spinnakers. And it's only useful to illustrate what goes on in boats when you're sailing, and also show some rules. So first picture, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's one behind here as well. 5 of them. So the next one here. So big overlap. It's not quite as sharp as it should be, but you can see, you know, you watch what people are doing in the boat. This guy's doing the spinnaker, this is the helm. That's the helm of that boat looking backwards. And that's the helm of that boat. He's pretty much concentrating on what's down here. There's another boat here. Now they're getting closer, you can see the back of the other one there. And the helm of this boat looking forward, the crew getting ready to lift the kite or the jib. And this boat, man, is now looking forward, looking where he's going. And this guy's keeping an eye on things. Sailing the spinnaker there. And then suddenly this happens. Big luff. I don't know, it's not very clear, it's not very sharply defined. But if you look at the yellow boat, this is classic. Everybody is watching these two. The spinnakers have collapsed. And this guy is the crew. You can just see the arm pointed out. Which again, someone's taken their eye off the job they were supposed to be doing. And this is what happens in boats. People get distracted, they forget how long and how quickly they move. And as they go down the keys, here's our mark. So here they all are. Everyone's still looking all around the place. This spinnaker's about to go fishing for mackerel. And he's outside everybody now. And this guy, the blue guy, is in front of everybody. And this guy is still overlapped inside, the whole lot of them. I think they're within the 3 boat zone. And these kites are all down now. This blue fella held it to the very last. And these two are still stuck together. Blue fella's around the mark. Yellow has got plenty of space. A little bit too much room. And this guy's coming down behind. The boat, the 5th boat, the one that was behind. He's now coming into the sea. And those two get around. the row is still going on between them, they're still discussing. There are no red flags. You know, if you're going to put a red flag up, in this instance, you would have had it up a long time ago. That's it. Just watch your tailing. Any further questions? Everybody knows everything. Wow. What a job. Way to go, guys. If anyone wants a rule book, I brought a few rule books with me from the office. They're only €10 each. Very handy to have your kit. Are we okay on time? It's not 11:30, is it? Okay, good. Any questions?
Just on that one there, we had the start line, the 3 rows, you're not allowed to push the boat up.
Yeah.
But that's stopped then when you're going on to the opposite tack. So say you're coming on a reach.
Into a start.
Yeah. And you come up to beat to the line and you're starting to push boats up. Can you do that?
You're coming onto a starting
You're
line.
starting your line and you're pushing the boat into the committee boat. Boat comes in beside you. And you once you're beating, you're allowed to push them up, aren't you?
Yeah, it's your proper course, isn't it? You know, you can't, don't forget, once the race has started, your proper course is to get round the next mark, and it's how quick you can get there. And if you're on starting line, a lot of people do it. You rarely see it on a big race because they all want to go, so that the gun, you know, the flapping stops and the fleet just jumps out of its skin and goes forward, and they don't start sort of crazy luffs anymore. They just try to go and get some clear air, because when you're doing that, you're stopping your boat, and the guy behind you is saying, "Thanks very much. Now I've got plenty of space to get air," and you might have screwed up someone's race. If he's room, he'll tack away and leave you head to wind. But if you're coming into a start line and you're down underneath the committee boat and the gun goes, you still have to be aware that if a boat is clearly overlapping you and he's clearly going to get in there, we can't just chuck him into the corner of the committee boat. Don't forget, someone owns a committee boat as well. They don't want to see their boat wrecked. Kind of part of it. Anyone else?
That last sequence of photographs you have there was no, that guy in the middle, but he was in the inside boat. He had a clear overlap, hadn't he? So it's really dead.
When you look back here, you see this overlap's going on for hours. That's Mackin Street, I think, or thereabouts.
Yeah, pretty much.
So the overlap is ongoing a long, long time. You could possibly say it's broken here, but there's an interesting one, and it's in the rules. When you are coming into a mark, and we got an overlap situation, or not, was he or wasn't he? Did he or did he not have an overlap at the zone? How do you decide it? Because that comes in a reasonable number of times where, fellas says, I had an overlap, you guys say, you had an overlap. And you can assume if there was one going on for a good while, that it probably continued. You know what happens? You're coming in, maybe a wave, you get an overlap and you lose it, you get an overlap and you lose it. You couldn't be 100% sure. But in that case, you can assume there isn't one. But if there's sort of definitely an overlap going on for a good while, and then you lose it, it's definitely on for a good time, you can pretty much assume that it continued. So it's an interesting interpretation in the rule, but it actually says it in the rule. If you think it was there, you can presume it was. So be careful that if you're in a situation where it's really borderline, and you're kind of behind in your boat and you have an overlap, probably don't. Comes into the room, it's going to be hard to prove that you did. When everyone says, well, he was coming from behind, he was a good bit behind, and chances are he didn't have an overlap. When it comes to the fine line, don't chance it. I think that's what the rule is saying. But if you're definitely in there, you're definitely in.
Does that include any part of your boat's equipment, a spinnaker pole, for example?
If you're on a reach and the
Sure.
spinnaker pole is set and being used, part of your equipment. What it doesn't include is, the spinnaker pole out here, and you're flinging it forward, say, how we went over that. What it doesn't include is you've got a bowsprit, someone grabs it and pulls it out and says, we went over that, It has to be in its normal position, which means in use. There's a gas one in the 1720s, they were headbangers. And they would literally pull the pole out, going into a mark to extend the boat by 2-3 metres to get the overlap. It only happened once that I did it once, and pulled it, went straight through the back of the boat in front of us. But yeah, equipment in its usual position, its normal position is classic. You can't, for instance, let your spinnaker fly way off, like a big flag, coming up to finish line. You said, spinnaker went across the line ahead of you, I must have won the race. It has to be in its normal position.
Yeah, no. What occurs to me, there's a bowsprit on the cats. It's not in use all the time, but even on it's in a fixed position.
It's fixed,
It doesn't go in
cats.
and out. So presumably that is its normal position. That
Yeah.
even on a beat or.
Yeah, it's fixed, it's fixed.
Yeah, okay.
It's normal part of the boat.
There is a.
Unless there's something in the class rules that says it doesn't, but usually it
I don't
wouldn't.
know.
You wouldn't have a piece of equipment like that that's set and fixed and there. Can't ignore it.
Fair enough. There's a difference.
But also, you've got to measure the boat from that point too, I think.
True. From the point of view of the three
The
boat
length.
lengths.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not 5 nines, 6.2.
It's got to be the need red flags.
Yeah, true. Any other ones?
Alan, can I just say something now, and maybe just to pick up on Rosina and the caption where you were showing the 3 boats together and the guy tacking, he was the leeward boat, he was tacking on the starboard. Just something I've noticed, and hopefully it'll help the group here, just at the national events, I find, like especially with the top 10 boats as well at national events, they don't really get caught up in starboard port stuff. They really just, all they're looking for is clean air. Just wind. And they duck boats, you won't see guys calling starboard and port. They'd be ducking boats, as Al said, to get that little bit of wind at the back of a boat, but just to keep out there, because the tack's going to cost you a length or two, and so, not to contradict tonight, but
No, it's very true. It's how you say it. The whole thing is apart.
you're looking for breeze, you're looking for wind, and you're just trying to get up the course without too much interference.
Usually at a big regatta, if a boat in the top 10 is in the protest room, it's a very serious one, particularly if he's up against another top 10 boat. And generally the presentation they make is usually very good. They know the rules, they know the game as well as any of us. Maybe better because they're sailing a lot more, they're involved in racing a lot more, and they just know the stuff. But you'd be surprised how sometimes they come in with stories thinking the protest committee might believe this or not, part of it, like, you try to suss up the protest committee and see how good they are, and you'll often have them tying ducks and drakes in the first race, particularly with the Rule 42, the propulsion rule, trying to see, how many yellow flags we pull out. And they learn very quickly that there's a good jury there, yellow flags are going to get very, very quick, and hear the whistles. The whole fleet settles down. But you're right when you say that the top 10 guys, the really good sailors, they're not going to faff about with, ports and starboards. They're just going to get on with it. Their job, they see it, is to get away from the rest of the fleet. And what you don't want to do is get a schmozzle with, one of your pals, halfway up the first or second beat, and having to do turns, and have the rest of them climb over while you're doing your turns. You just want to get on with it, and the further away you get from the rest of them, the more room you have to sail. The real race, for some of them, doesn't actually start the last beat. Sometimes the last couple of 100 metres is the last beat. Because that's what they want to cross the line first. But they've got to get away from the start. The start's an awful schmozzle with 50 knots, and the wind is filthy. The crucial thing there is to be actually on the line. And you see the boats that are in the second tier, You know, it's like ranks. There's a rank of boats, and then there's another rank. Well, the first rank are going to get away, and within very, very short distance, the boats from the second line, they're going to be 20, 30, 40, 50 metres behind very quickly. There's a filth of dirty wind that comes off